As an Amazon seller that's been on the platform since December of 2015 and sold over $7 million worth of products on Amazon, there is one tool that consistently outpaces all the rest in its importance, and that tool is Keepa. Now, there are many different videos that I've done on Keepa and many other people on YouTube have done on Keepa, but today I'm going to go through 3 different Keepa secrets that I feel a lot of people are underutilizing, and this will help you to find hidden products as well as to be able to have Keepa set up a system that is alerting you throughout the entirety of your Amazon selling venture so that you don't have to keep up with every single product that you'd like to sell. Now, before I get into that, if you're somebody that's looking to really maximize how you can best read Keepa charts, if you just comment down below the word Keepa, I'll send you a link to where you can get my full 16-page Keepa guide that I've used to train thousands of sellers as well as my own team members on how to read Keepa charts so that you make sure you're making the best buying decisions possible. Now, let's get into the very first way that you can use Keepa to actually pull back products with no sales rank that are selling at a high velocity. This is one of my favorite ways to source for some of these underfound products, and so I'm excited to share that with everybody here. Ultimately, if you utilize Keepa, you go to the data and then product finder. Clicking on those 2 things brings you to this page, which is fairly overwhelming. Now, I actually give over 60 different sourcing systems of mine where I go through the Keepa product finder. If you're interested in checking that out, you can go to askjimmysmith.com/evergreen, and you can see some high-level information on what that all includes. But let's go through this one because a lot of sellers are scared of selling on products with no sales rank, but they never really utilize Keepa to find products that are also still selling. Some of my favorite things to sell over the years has been products without a sales rank that other people are avoiding. And so in this case, to set this up, it's really simple. All you have to do is in the top, click on no sales rank. You can then scroll down here and even do Amazon out of stock. So that way you're not competing with Amazon. I would recommend having some sort of an FBA price. So that way we know that other FBA sellers are on here and it gives us the ability to sell at a higher price. But in this case, instead of new third-party FBA, I'm just going to do new, okay? Because if there's only an FBM seller, I'm fine with selling against them in this case. But let's see what we can pull back for anything that is typically over a $20 price point. Now, just looking at that, we've got 114 million products in Keepa's product finder, and we're trying to get this down to a much lower and reasonable amount. So let's continue to scroll down and add in some other filters into this particular search. So if you want to exclude categories, you can do that by clicking on is one of or is none of. You would have to do is none of if you're trying to exclude certain categories. It's up to you. Also, if you wanted to search, let's just do something like tools and home improvement here, just that way. So we narrowing down the search for the purpose of this video. So now we're down to 7.8 million products. Now, the next thing that you want to do is make sure that there's at least 3 sellers on the listing. That way you're not competing with just one seller across the board. I like to make sure to do that. It really significantly reduces it. We're down to 245,000 products. Now, the next thing is this is where it really separates out the listings that have no sales rank but are selling really well. Now, this will also filter out a lot of products that would actually be really good because Amazon doesn't provide all this data for all of its products. But in this case, bought in the past month is a feature that Amazon provides that Keepa is pulling back on their Keepa Data Product Finder. And so if I put a minimum of 50 sales in the last month, then I'm able to find all the products without a sales rank that are selling over 50 times a month. Now, in some cases, this can be a little bit skewed. And so you're going to need to go through the Keepa charts, make sure they actually look like they are selling. And that's where my Keepa guide can come into play. But ultimately, this is the quickest way to find products that are selling fast. So we've got 49 products. It took us from millions and millions of products down to 49 that have no sales rank. Amazon's not on it. It's a minimum of $20. There's at least 3 sellers on there, and it's sold over 50 times in the last month. Now, just so you know, Amazon starts this data collection point at 50. So if you were to put up to 50 sales between 10 and 49, you would get 0 results typically because there are no results under 50. So you have to start this at a minimum of 50. Just FYI, I want to make sure you know how to use that filter properly. So let's see what we can find here. We may find some great stuff. We may find nothing, but ultimately it's 49 targeted opportunities that we can go through and see if there's a good chance for us to sell this. So if we were to look at these, let me just click into, I don't know, this one. I haven't done any searching on this. There's no sales rank. It's selling over 50 times a month. It's got multiple different sellers on this. I don't know how big this is. It's 32 gallons. So it's pretty big, I think. We may have to avoid that one. But you can see this thing sells, and it sells a lot. It's currently selling over $300, $328, all fulfilled by merchant, it looks like. I don't see any FBA sellers on there right now, but let me see if there are any according get to the data here. Yeah, the buy box is at $325. If you're willing to sell some massive products, this could be a potential opportunity I would look into a little bit further. But if I scroll down here, yep, these are all going to be FBM sellers, which makes sense because this is a huge product. Let's look at something that may be a little bit smaller here. Maybe this one. This is a 1.5-inch valve, it looks like. PVC 2-port check valve. This has a lot of different reviews. It's currently selling anywhere from 100 to over 200 times in a month based on this yellow line. Again, this yellow line comes from Amazon. This is not Keepa data. And so that's why I like using the monthly sold amount. This stays fairly steady in pricing. I would probably want to see a little bit more variability. So that way it's going up or down a little bit more. But the amount of sellers is pretty consistent. The pricing is fairly consistent as well. And it seems to change between a bunch of different sellers. As I scroll, there is one dominant seller, it looks like, and Amazon has come into play just a very little amount here. But again, this thing sells fast. And so you can use this information to your advantage as you're doing your sourcing. I know Milwaukee is a brand that arbitrage sellers specifically sell. So it's interesting here. Usually, as a product loses its sales rank, sellers start to fall off the listing and the price usually goes up in price. Now, in this case, the price has continued to drop. And I think it's because there were so many sellers coming up onto this listing over this time period before the sales rank fell off. But ultimately, this is indicating there's probably some sort of profit margin back here. I would be watching this product in particular to see if these sellers start to fall off the listing. They're kind of starting to drop. It went up to 30 and then at one point up to 32 sellers here, and it started to drop down. Now we're down to 24, 25 sellers over the last few weeks. And so that's most likely as of a result of either people having to sell this at a low profit because the price dropped, or because there's no sales rank and so they're just missing out on these opportunities. But it is a good way to start to find some of these things. Now, this actually brings me to my next point, which is the second secret to utilizing Keepa to help you in your business. And that second way is using Keepa tracking alerts. Now, I didn't mean for this to come up, but this is a prime example of where I'd want to set up Keepa to track a product and then send me a notification whenever that product became a better product for me to source and sell. And so I love Keepa tracking alerts because then Keepa is doing work for you and you can just forget about this product until it becomes a better one. So if I'm looking at this product, for instance, and I'm seeing the price has gone from $95 down to $54 and the amount of sellers have climbed up a lot, I would want to set an alert. I would want to be notified whenever the seller count started to drop to a different level, because as the seller count drops, the price on Amazon starts to increase typically. So I would set up an alert for the seller count to drop, and I would also set up an alert for whenever the buy box price starts to go back up. So that way I know, hey, this may be a prime opportunity right now for me to go out and find it and send it in while sellers are falling off the listing and the price is going up, and then I can be more profitable on it. Now, there's more analysis that I would want to make sure of before I just buy it and send it in. I'd want to ensure that I had some profitability or the ability to break even anyway at these lower price points if I had to drop it to those lower price points. But what I would do for Keepa tracking, I could then click into track product here. I would click into pro and I would just do a buy box. Now, if I want to do a buy box of a certain amount or more, I don't want or less. So I'm going to have to click this little button right here to switch to increase tracking. So now it's or more. And I would want to see whenever I put my cursor inside the buy box section here, you can see that the 90-day average is $61. You can see the 180-day average is 73. The highest is 80 in the last 3 months. And so let's say the profitable price point that I really wanted to list it at was at a minimum of $60. And so I would just come in here. The buy box is currently at $53.49. I would most likely come in here and put in that I wanted to see this whenever the buy box went to $60 or more. So that way Keepa will actually send me an alert whenever that happens. Additionally, I would want to come down here to the new offer count. We've seen a lot of new offers. It's currently got 25 sellers on this listing, and I want to see whenever those sellers start to drop off. Now, in this case, I want to make sure that it's a new offer count of or less. So instead of it being 25 or more, I'd want to see a certain amount or less. Now, in this case, if I'm clicking into this and I'm looking for or less, the last 180-day average was 22. Lowest in the last 6 months was 12 sellers. So I would probably put this, since it's at 25, I would say alert me whenever this new offer count gets to 20 or less. And that way I can just monitor it then. I can always come in and change that or adjust it. Now, additionally, I could add in a tag of, Milwaukee if I wanted to tailor this out by brand. I could also, if I found the seller or a supplier for this listing, I could just paste that in the memo, the link to the supplier. So that way I don't have to go and find it. Additionally, I could add this into a lead tracker like Replen Dashboard at replendashboard.com. We have a lead tracker that you can add all of these ASINs and it will track the profitability of those products for you. But ultimately, using Keepa tracking alerts allows allows you to set these up. And then once you're done with this, you can just simply, you could add other things if you wanted to. I've done full videos on how to use Keepa tracking alerts, but you could set up the amount of time that you want it to track for up to 10 years. And I would probably just do it for a year, or you could do up to 10 if you wanted. Click on start tracking, and then it will set up an alert to email you, or it will send you a push notification on your phone if you have the Keepa app on your phone, or it can send you information through an RSS feed. There's a bunch of different options. It can send you a Telegram notification. There's a lot of different ways to get notified, but Keepa will let you know once these things actually happen on the listing. And so that is huge, because then you're setting up a system where Keepa is sending you these alerts when an opportunity becomes better for you. And so in my opinion, this is a prime example of when I'd set up a Keepa tracking alert for when the seller count drops a little bit lower, and or the price, the buy box price, starts to go back up. So that way I know that there's a potential opportunity for me to sell on the listing. And I may look at it and decide not to buy it, and it continues to track those products for you, and you can just change the tracking alerts if you want to. This is part of my Evergreen sourcing system that I train on, which is actually called the product alerts here. And so for product alerts, I do a full deep dive on that. Again, you can check that out at askjimmysmith.com/evergreen if you're interested in learning more about that. And so let's get into the third way of utilizing Keepa, and that Keepa secret that I think a lot of sellers are missing out on right now. It is a topic of finding listings where you can sell above the buy box, but Keepa makes it a much easier process by just utilizing their data product finder and being able to put in some key information that may show an opportunity where you can sell at a higher price than the buy box. And there's also different ways that you can set this up, but I'm going to be showing you one of the many different ways that I can utilize it, because I think this is a powerful example of how you can use Keepa in your business for this. Now, first and foremost, I am going to go ahead and put in a sales rank. Again, this isn't something that you have to do all the time. I just like to have a maximum just to tailor down the results a little bit more. You can change this out. I'll do 200,000 sometimes. I'll do 250. I'll do 300,000. And there's a lot of different ways to use Keepa Data Product Finder. But the next thing that you want to do is you can actually put in Amazon out of stock, and then I'm going to do a buy box price of $15 to $20. Okay. And the reason I'm doing that is I just want to see what the buy box is currently listed at. Actually, I'm going to take out the last year because I really only care about the last 180 days in this case. We're down to 2.7 million products that have a buy box between 15 to 20 fairly steadily. All right. Now, then what I want to do is go to the FBA price here. And I'm going to say I want the current FBA price to be at probably about double of what this minimum is here. I'm going to say a minimum of $30. Okay. Now there's 146 products. They're an FBA seller is at $30, but the buy box is at 15 to 20. Now, how would this happen? Typically, that means there's an FBM seller inside of that listing. And so with that, that means that if somebody wants prime shipping, then I may be the only option or one of the only options as an FBA seller. So it's just one way that you can set up Keepa, by the way, to find above the buy box opportunities. I would also want to see that there were at least a few different sellers on the listing. And let's see what pulls back. We're down to 112 products. Now, an additional check for that, let's say I didn't do the FBA price that high. I also could have said I want the buy box is FBA. I would say buy box is FBA, no. Okay. And that way I would ensure that FBM is in the buy box, but then I would have an FBA price that's higher than that FBM price. Okay. So that's another way that you can do it. A lot of different ways that you can pull back above the buy box opportunities. Additionally, you can look for things that are really fast moving that have certain lower price points, but ultimately a higher FBA seller price. So there's a lot of different things you can do with the product finder, but I'm just going to look at this and see what opportunities pull back with this particular search. This is a really basic one and pretty easy for anybody to kind of run. If you want to run back through the video, you can do that. And so I'm going to go ahead and click into, let's just do Selson Blue here and see if there's anything. So right now the buy box is at $15.77, but the FBA sellers are at $31.90, right? That's pretty crazy, right? Because look at this, it's selling over 1,000 times a month. It only has, how many sellers? It's got about 17 or 18 sellers. If I scroll down here, yeah, it's got about 18 sellers right now. And you can see that the FBA price stays fairly consistently high. This is actually one of those listings that did not have, oh, actually it did have a sales rank. It was just really low. And then recently the sales rank has changed out a few different times, but you can use this to your advantage, right? If this is something that you were interested in selling, you could, if you could find this for about $15, you could try to sell it at $31, $32. If I looked at the data here and then clicked into offers, I could actually see what all of the other FBA sellers are currently selling it at versus the FBM sellers too, once this loads, which is always fun whenever I'm recording things. It takes a little bit. So a prime seller at $32.90. Let me just click into prime here. There's only one FBA seller right now on this. this, and I would be willing to try to test this out to see if I could actually sell this at a higher price point. I could even include historical offers to see what the other FBA sellers were doing. There's this nice little switch here, include historical offers. So let's see what the other sellers were selling it at. $32.90, $35, $26.50, $34.99, $32.50. So pretty high price points on some of them. Some of them were a little lower at 16 or so. But this is a prime example of something that has a buy box that's lower. It's selling at a high velocity, has sellers falling off the listing and the FBA sellers at a much higher price point. So I really like the look of that listing. Now I'd want to double check a couple other things as well, just to make sure I was comfortable listing it, that the listing was done properly. But let's take a look at, I don't know, let's just look at this one. So here's another example, $15.95 FBM, $30.14 FBA. Your seller's count is dropping here. There are variations, so you'd want to ensure a couple different things to read through variations to make sure it's actually selling well. But ultimately, this is a pretty cool looking Keepa chart, in my opinion, for selling above the buy box. That's just one of the ways. Now I go through a bunch of different ways in my Evergreen sourcing system program. Again, if you're interested in checking that out, that's at askjimmysmith.com/evergreen. That link's below and in the description. But if you're interested in my free Keepa training guide on how you best read Keepa charts on a basic level for how to read sales velocity and buy box prices and the seller count and so much more, then be sure to comment below the word Keepa and I'll send you over that Keepa training document and I'll send it to you in the comments section. So if you have any questions, please let me know down below. Hopefully this video was eye-opening for you and exciting for these 3 different Keepa secrets, I call them, but more Keepa underutilized tools so that you can start applying these into your Amazon business. Hope this video helped you and blessed you. You have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.